good, everyone? Welcome back for another session. Now, instead of showing the individual runs on each of the new Super Battle Road stages that I ended up clearing over this weekend, I'm slowly catching up. So finally got to these stages. But again, instead of showing all the individual runs, I figured it would be better to basically just compile everything into one, single video and just kind of quickly cover the types of teams and units I included for each of the stages. So I did end up having to use some makeshift team builds because I am missing a couple category leads. So the whole point of this is, if you're struggling with certain stages because you're missing some category leads, maybe this will help you in terms of potentially building, an alternate team build or whatever to make it work for your deck. So with that being said, again, on a high level, I am just going to cover each of the stages. So we'll start with the Explosion of Anger category stage. For this one, I essentially went with a all Broly team. So I've got the Dragon Ball Super movie Broly as lead. So of course the movie bosses and full power category leader for that, and then I've got the friend lead for the intelligence type legendary Super Saiyan Broly. So again, this is pretty straightforward stuff. In terms of items, you'll notice that I didn't include any healing items. They really don't need any for this particular stage. They pretty much take care of business, especially both of the LR Broly. So that's pretty much the straightforward concept. In terms of like rotation, I would just say I pretty much kept the LR Brolys on one rotation, basically to clear the map, essentially with one rotation as much as possible, and then the offsetting rotation had the intelligence Dokkan Fest Broly along with whoever wants to pair up with the unit on the offsetting rotation. So again, no healing items were really needed for him, and this team was pretty straightforward stuff. So we'll move on to the next one. Revenge is a category where I am missing the Bardock category lead for the Revenge category. So because of that, I had to go with the Resurrected Warriors category setup, where pretty much everyone across the board is within that category. Now, in terms of like the rotations themselves, again, similar to the Explosion of Anger one, I went with the LR Brolys on one rotation, and then for the offsetting rotation, I essentially had the LR Perfect Cell and then the Bardock unit. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, they don't really link that well, and that's honestly the case. The whole purpose of that is basically to allow Bardock to build up defense through the super attack, but the more important thing is having the offsetting rotation where Perfect Cell would have a chance to recover HP whenever team HP went below 30%. So again, by going through that method, I was able to recover HP pretty much with every single stage on that, or battle in that stage. So that really did kind of mitigate a lot of the item consumption a little bit. And chances are, if I didn't use those recovery functions from Cell, I probably would have struggled a little bit more. So not really important in terms of like other highlights. You'll notice like Super Saiyan 3 Bardock is on there. I definitely don't recommend you include the unit, but because of the team build I had to go with, I didn't really have a choice for that. The next one is Team Bardock. Now this one was actually kind of difficult, probably because I didn't really put in a whole lot of thought in terms of like the overall team synergy and whatnot. I just kind of threw in some units and just attempted to clear it because honestly the initial goal for me is to not necessarily get a fast time or anything, but just be able to complete the run and collect the rewards. So not really a whole lot to explain here. The time's pretty terrible, even within like the ranks amongst my friends. It was it was definitely on the low side. So I'm honestly 100% sure there are way better team builds than this. So I guess along with this and the rest of the stages that I cover, if you have any other better recommendations, feel free to comment and let everybody know what kind of team builds you went with. Alright, so we're moving on, and I do have to call out, outside of the Explosion of Anger in this category, I pretty much was pretty consistent with the items, like basically Snake Princess and the Android 8, the Shamo, and Whis, all basically a combination of HP recovery and damage reduction or mitigation. That's pretty much the overall approach, and of course I could have made things a lot more efficient had I put in more thought, but again, the whole point of this was to be able to clear it. So this one, might actually surprise you, right? And this is the Inhuman Deeds category stage, and this is not like an original team build. I simply went in and kind of checked what everybody was doing in terms of like the overall ranking, and I noticed a lot of the people went with the extreme strength type team build, so it was something I was able to kind of replicate and try out for myself. So it did work out pretty well. I think it goes without saying the strength type LR Broly pretty much takes care of business for you in this particular setup. So again, I did bring in the what was it? The fruit of Tree of Might, or whatever the right word was, but that definitely does allow for key building a little bit if you're struggling with the rotations, or the links or whatever. They'll definitely help mitigate that. This one is going to be the Earthlings category. I think by far this was the easiest stage out of the group of new stages that were released, just because the units really work well in a Super Battle Road setting. Videl goes without saying. The ability to mitigate damage with built-in additional super attacks, that really goes without saying. But the launch unit is actually very, very good too, because not only does she have also the ability for multiple super attacks, but with every super attack she's able to reduce the enemy's attacks. So again, in a Super Battle Road setting, the more consistent and frequent you are with reducing enemies' attack, the overall, it's just going to get easier overall in the long term. So, LR Roshi obviously very, very good too. Very powerful unit. Even in this setup, you're looking at 4 million plus in attack stats, and he has a revival skill mechanic. I didn't necessarily need it for this case, but obviously he has that. But other units obviously help in terms of mitigating damage and also supporting the rest of the team. So that goes without saying. Krillin is an AoE type unit. Didn't really put in that much of an impact in overall damage, but certainly a nice option to have for that as well. The next one will be the special pose category. This is pretty straightforward stuff. I mean, it's essentially a special pose slash hybrid Saiyan setup where you've got all the various Gotenks units. I do want to specify like units like the Strength Super Saiyan Gotenks, the Gotenks and Ghost, as well as the transformed state of the Intelligence Gotenks unit. They all do have the stunning mechanic, so that definitely does help. And I intentionally brought in more stunning units to be able to mitigate some of the potential damage from the enemies. And the physical type Gotenks does have the ability to seal super attacks. And of course, the Gohan unit, the only non-Gotenks unit on here, is able to provide support for the Majin Buu Saga category allies. So again, pretty straightforward stuff. Not enough material to really cover in detail, so we'll go right into the next one, which is the Majin Power. This one is basically just an all Buu unit squad, and each of these individual guys kind of work well with each other. Obviously they're the same type unit, so I don't think I need to really break this down a whole lot. But again, like I think this was like the first run, and I haven't touched it since. So again, I could probably go in and optimize the team builds a little bit more, but again, the whole purpose of the set of the run series that I initially covered were basically to just be able to clear it. So not a whole lot of in-depth talking points for this one. It's, I think, honestly, even for you guys, pretty straightforward without explanation. So let's move on. This is the rapid growth category. Again, I went with the transforming Kefla unit as lead, obviously because of the leader skill setting, but I did include hit, attack reduction with the super attack, and also the stunning abilities, kind of important thing. I did bring back the Strength Super Saiyan Gotenks as well because of a medium chance to stun, and the easy A for the physical Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is pretty good, so I definitely did want to include that. Caulifla obviously has the evading mechanics, but the Kale unit is more or less a support for the Universe 6 allies, or I guess you could say Universe Survival. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Just a combination of stunning and evading attacks really just kind of mitigates it. I did try it out with the LR Kale and Caulifla. They really didn't do that well, so I essentially opted to exclude them from this particular run. This one is the what was it? It's not Battle Wits, the other one. I always forget. I'll have to update it in the pinned comments. I'm sure you guys can tell, but whatever the LR Blue Boys category lead was, I always forget this one, the translation for it. But I could have probably definitely made a much better team build for this. This was kind of a first time pass, and I was able to clear it, so I didn't necessarily go back in and try it again. I could certainly do so at some point and try out a different team build and optimize team building a little bit more down the road. But yeah, I mean, it's just honestly it's pretty straightforward stuff. Now, when it comes to the EZA for LR, Goku, and Frieza, it's a little bit. It's probably better to include more units that could potentially lower, attack or defense or whatever the applicable stat effects are in order to fully take advantage. I didn't necessarily go into, much thinking about it. I just kind of, saw what was in the category and within my deck and just kind of went through it. So that's pretty much the takeaway for that one. The last one was pretty painful. I do not have the Tech Ultimate Gohan, so within the deck that I had to go with a Hybrid Saiyan setup, and you'll notice some of these units, you're probably surprised I even bothered including them, but honestly, it wasn't my choice. I was pretty much forced to build what I could within the abilities or restrictions that I had. So like LR Trunks and the intelligence type Super Saiyan Trunks, I don't necessarily recommend you include these guys because quite honestly it was a little bit painful going through this one, and I'm a little bit surprised I was able to clear it within 2 or 3 runs. But I'm sure having Tech Gohan would certainly make things a lot easier, but again, this is the way I went about it, and if you're like me and don't have Tech Ultimate Gohan, it's manageable to clear it with this type of team, so it can be done. It's just going to take a little work. So good luck if you're struggling. Hopefully, maybe this will give you a couple different ideas in terms of how to potentially go about some of the stages if you're lacking the proper category lead, or your deck is a little bit restricted in terms of like the available units. So again, I just wanted to cover this on a very, very high level, just briefly break down some of the teams I use for each of the stages. Again, if you have better recommendations outside of the optimal team builds, certainly include it in the comments, and maybe that'll help a couple of guys out that are still struggling to clear the stages. But again, hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, I do appreciate you checking it out. Until the next one, I'll catch you guys later.